Good day, America. How are you all doing? As always, this episode is sponsored by Lex Wellness Kentucky. If you enjoy hemp products, step on over to lexwellnessky.com and use the code Omega Green for 20% off of your orders. Let's get into it. Step into the green room. Today, I would like to start off with a simple definition. And that definition is one of a sociopath. Sociopath is an individual or individuals who lack empathy, remorse, and a strong moral compass, often engaging in manipulative and deceitful behaviors. Now, if someone displayed these types of behaviors, would you feel comfortable placing any type of trust in them? Would you personally want to deal with them or have them be, say, like a boss or an employee? Like how do you all feel about engaging with them? Do you believe that people who have a lack of empathy for their common man should be allowed to sit in positions of power?
No, because it's just we have that now as a narcissist. Like, there's no room for that because you got to put yourself. You got to put the country before yourself.
Right.
And so to consider them having empathy and stuff like that, like they should, because they need to know how the people want them to be represented.
Gotcha.
But sociopaths, man, you gotta watch out for them.
He crazy, boy, crazy. He crazy. He crazy.
I can't remember the exact study off the top of my head. I'll have to run it back and get some sourcing on this one. But years ago, I saw an article that was talking about sociopaths make like the best business leaders and this and that. That was basically kind of like what was pulled away from it. So I feel like some people, especially nowadays, would argue that being a sociopath is basically kind of like a personality trait, a mental health disorder, or what have you. Mm-hmm. So
until they get screwed over by one, and then they're like, "Yeah, well,
that's
the thing, though, because that's what sociopaths will do. They'll be willing to screw over anybody to get what they want.
Exactly. So therein lies the question generally, and how do you all feel about that? Like, what can be done to deal with that?
I don't know that there is something that can be done because there are always going to be sociopaths. As far as, do I think that they deserve to be empowered? No. Is it going to happen regardless of what we want or what we think? Yes.
Right.
And the reason, because even the people that we talk to about the sociopaths are sociopaths themselves. So it's kind of like, how do you break that?
Right.
But I feel like it can be a win, it could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. Because if you have a sociopath that's in office and all they see is the top dollar for themselves, that means they're going to push that company or that business or that country to the top tier of where it is so they can consume more money, so that they're getting paid more, so those bonuses are coming in for them. But on the other hand, it could also be a double-edged sword at the same time, if that makes sense to me. My opinion.
Yeah, it was deep. I like that.
What do you think, Cha-Cha?
For me, the key word is disability. And the reason why I say that is because you mentioned, and I'm speaking about Omega, he said that being a sociopath is, there's a lot that goes into that, such as mental health. So the mental health is a protected class. You can't you can. That's why, you know, in court you can say you can plead insanity, and you won't do time. You might go to a mental institution, but that's club med compared to going to the
Yeah,
penitentiary.
it's formally recognized as antisocial personality disorder, ASPD.
There you go. It's a protected class, and so it actually speaks for itself. So as the question remains, what can we do? There's really nothing we can do, because no matter what we bring to the table, they're going to go by the protected class guidelines. You can take this person and say, you know what? Every night we go to bed, he or she talks to themselves. They talk about killing. They talk about money. There's $1 million waiting on them. Anything. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What they're going to ask you is, are they a threat to you, or are they a threat to themselves? And you can say, yeah, they talked about killing. They said that's not enough. That's not enough. They're a protected class, and you can do nothing about it. You may be able to go to court and get a court order for them to be picked up, but they know how to play the game. They ask them certain questions. They're going to say it in a way that makes them look like that they're not a sociopath.
Right.
And so that's the thing when it comes to that part of it. What can we do? It's all about knowing the guidelines and being able to say, you know what? I got it. This passes the guidelines for somebody to be picked up and looked into. You know, so it's all about that to me.
Gotcha. So basically kind of like current rule book scenario.
Right.
You don't think there's much more that...
Because they're a protected class. And so, you know, they're a protected class. They trust me, I've lived it. I've had to live with that where I live. There was somebody that was mentally unstable. It was throwing Gatorade bottles. I was not where I live at, where my mom lives at. My mom and my sister, and this person was throwing empty Gatorade glass bottles down at us, throwing pots down. We just out of nowhere and they were a protected class. They didn't go to jail. They were a protected class. You know, but the landlord got involved, like, oh, well, they got to go. They ain't not gonna protect them from that, you know.
Right.
You know, because now you disrupting, you know, now you're looking at litigation. If my tenants get hurt on my watch, I'm gonna go down for that.
Right.
So that's the only thing that they're not protected from, is getting evicted because they're detrimental to the other tenants. But other than that, you know, like I said, it's all about guidelines.
Heard that. Well, I mean, I brought it up namely because I see the way that things work, not just now, but traditionally throughout history. Some people are just really bad leaders. Some people are just really bad people, in my opinion, regardless of what era you live in. But I also think, too, just generally, kind of like I was talking about, some people view it as maybe it's a good thing, like you could have, you know, a cutting edge attitude in business or whatever by being able to kind of turn off that part of your brain that, I don't know, has empathy or considers something other than the bottom line.
So my
You know
question
what I mean?
is, do you or do y'all know, like, what are the traits for people that are trying to avoid those types of people? What are the traits to look for when looking at a sociopath, or looking at, I don't know if this is a word, but sociopathic behaviors or tendencies?
Yeah.
What are you looking for to avoid that, or to notice that and point that out?
Well, a more detailed breakdown is lack of empathy. They struggle to understand or share the feelings of others. Lack of remorse or guilt. They may not feel remorse or guilt for anything having to do with harming others. Manipulative behavior. Can use charm, wit, or deceit to manipulate others for personal gain. Disregard for rules and social norms. And being impulsive. They may act on impulse just without considering at all the consequences of their actions.
Okay.
Deceitfulness. You know, that's kind of like a given. Frequently
Yeah, for
lie
sure.
or just deceive others. And just difficulty with relationships, which, I mean, is not hard to imagine given the the preceding
Yeah.
traits. You know what I mean?
Not the you just described the whole second half of our main topic this week. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but that's also why I think about like people like that you might meet growing up in your everyday life, and you're like, good God,
Right.
like that person should never be in charge of other human beings. So, like everybody knows somebody,
Yeah.
and if you don't know somebody, motherfucker, it's you.
Right.
But on the real, yeah, it just makes me think everyone's had that boss, you know, maybe just a dickhead or has some kind of complex or whatever, or you just encounter people and whatnot, and that leads me to think, I'm like, well, statistically, it's like these people, you know,
Well, that's pretty much what we got going on in our
yeah,
country right now. We got a bunch of
Yeah.
sociopaths running it.
do end up in positions of power.
And you ask about the signs. The thing is that some of the signs that Omega just read off, they're like everyday people.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the next question is, if you acknowledge the signs,
Oh, you gonna be,
when do you act?
Yeah.
Or when do you sit still?
Right.
Or basically like, are you a
Is she
threat to
really-
me?
Yeah.
Are you a threat to
Yeah.
me? If
Are
you're not
you
a threat to
turning
me,
into a
then do
sociopath
you.
yourself?
When is it time to walk away?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I know, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
like I said, we're talking about a sociopath. So with a sociopath, it's more about the threat level.
Yeah,
The threat level. So
for sure.
you know, you're asking yourself. You're asking yourself, do you know?
Just don't get
Do
close.
is he a threat to me, or is he going after somebody else,
Yeah.
or you know, it's you know, so it's more than just knowing the signs of a sociopath.
You gotta know the signs. You gotta know when the signs are directed towards you.
What I'm saying is what you need to know is, what do you do when you recognize the signs?
Yeah.
No, facts, because I mean, depending on like what's going on, and the people are opportunistic.
Mhm.
So, you know, again,
Just be
raise.
cautious.
No, you can't
Raise
borrow this
the
$10
question.
from me because I know you're not going to give it back.
That was me.
Right, and there you are at the coffee
Right.
machine with a knife in your back.
All right.
Over $10.
But again, thank you all for humoring your boy. With,
Thank you for welcoming us into the green room.
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
always
good stuff.
toasty
Good
in here.
stuff.
Thank you, America, for joining me in the green room today. If you have any thoughts, opinions that you would like to share, please do. I will see you again soon in the coming week. Have a good one.